Ladies and gentlemen, dreamers and doers, seekers of purpose and fulfillment, welcome to Passion on Purpose, the podcast that sets your soul on fire and ignites the spark within you. I'm your host, Steph Hilfer, and I'm beyond thrilled you're here. Passion on Purpose features leaders, experts, and sometimes me on center stage. We put the spotlight on visionaries, entrepreneurs, leaders, experts, and everyday heroes to share their journey of self-discovery, enthusiasm, and unwavering determination. We'll explore how they use their passion and purpose to fuel their brand. Alongside our leaders, we'll provide practical tips, actionable advice, and wisdom from our experts across various fields. So if you're ready to unleash your inner fire, shake off the doubts and insecurities, and pursue a life of purpose with unbridled enthusiasm, then let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. Today, I have a leader on center stage that I'm so excited to share with you. We have Agostino Pintus. We practiced that. He is the owner, founder, all things that you will find and need to know about for Bulletproof Cash Flow. Also, the host of the Bulletproof Cash Flow podcast. I'm so excited to dive into what I expect to be some of the most authentic, honest, and real conversation I've had with a leader, at least this season, because I've already been schooled by Agostino. So let's dive into it. And we're going to start as we always do. And I'm going to ask, what is your why?
What is my why? My why is my family. That's really what it is. I know it sounds very cliche, and it's one of those things that really keeps me going. And when at the beginning of every day, I think about what I'm doing for my family and where I'm going to take them as I go down this journey called life, right? And a lot of it has to do with trying to build some generational wealth and making sure that if something does happen to me, which I don't expect anything to, I'm in good health, but if something ever does, that they're going to be taken care of, and that's really what it is. My whole thing was to build something so big that my kids will still remember my name, right? So it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of effort to build something like that, but that's really what it is.
Yeah. Where does that desire beyond just the heartstrings that are pulled as a father and as a husband, where do you feel like in maybe some of your past, that desire to create this momentum for your family line come from? What was your upbringing like?
Well, here's the thing, Steph. I mean, I grew up to poor immigrants from Italy, right? They landed in Canada. My parents met there, and they had the three of us. I'm the oldest of the three of us, the kids. And we didn't have much growing up. But I was always instilled with this thing of go to school, go to school for as long as you can, and you're going to get rich if you go to school, which is not true, by the way.
Right.
Because I went to school, double master's degrees, engineering, did all this really cool stuff, and it sucked. I was on the 40-40-40 plan. You know the 40-40-40 plan, right? You got to know what that is. 40-40-40 plan. It's when you work for 40 years, right? 40 hours a week, and the government steals 60% of your money, and you're left with 40% of it, right? That's the 40-40-40 plan. And you know what? It's not sustainable. It just isn't. It really irritated me, and really, as an entrepreneur from the time I was a kid to now being stuck in corporate, because my parents sold me this whole idea: go to school, and you're going to become an engineer, become a doctor, become a lawyer. Same story that is pushed on many people out there, right? And it just doesn't work. That program, maybe it used to work back in the 50s and 60s, but it doesn't work today. There's no way. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So I ended up having to, after getting fired from my, 10th job or something. I just have no idea. I was like,
I love that you're not embarrassed to say that.
No, you shouldn't be. If you don't get fired at least once, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, right? In my opinion, because you're not willing to push the limits and push the boundaries of some crappy company, right? And I'm not, but that's I gotta say this for a second too. It's often funny that when you go on a job interview and you have to watch what you say to insult some crappy company, even though they were a crappy company and they let you go, but yet you can't say anything bad about them. It's stupid, if you ask me. But
Agreed.
regardless, let's put that. I just have to say that it's so annoying to me, right? But here's the thing. I decided that. This burning desire of being an entrepreneur had to be fulfilled. It had to be fulfilled. I was ignoring it for the longest time, living a life that I did not want to live. And while I was very successful doing the IT thing, I used to run large enterprise technology groups, and we built some really great software, worked for some great teams. I even worked for a couple of great companies in there too. It did not fulfill what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur with my life, living life on my own terms, right? Not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. You don't have to be. It's not the only way to have a fulfilled life. But for a guy like me, that's what it needed to be. And what it involves is basically recentering your entire life around what you said earlier about your why. It's kind of like most people just go through life living day by day by day, living for Friday and dreading Mondays. That's not really a life now, is it? I mean, that can't possibly be it, right? I mean, that sucks. That's terrible. Who wants to live a life like that, And I found that, at least for me anyway, real estate was the answer to fixing that solution. So it took some doing, because I was doing real estate, but I wasn't doing it the way I'm doing it now. Now we're doing big commercial deals. We're doing development. We're doing net lease. We're doing these very, very big deals. Back then, I was just doing like single family, small multifamily, buying them and just doing that to build some extra cash flow, which is a great place to start, by the way. But to build something really, really big, you have to have a why. You have to have a passion, because if you don't, believe me, it gets freaking hard. It gets tough. You need that burning desire to keep it going, because there's days where you just want to say, well, I'm not going to say it right now. I know I want to be kind to your audience right now.
My audience can handle it, Agostino. Say it.
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. If anybody knows me, they'll know what I'm going to say, right? But the thing is,
I can read between the lines.
Yeah, I read between the lines, because there's some days where it gets really, really tough, and you have to be able to make it through, and you have to keep the why in check. I mean, I do vision boards. I write out my goals on a daily basis. It's what keeps me going, even when things are not going so well. And if there's any entrepreneurs, there's any gurus out there that say, oh yeah, everything is great and you're going to become a millionaire overnight if you buy my training program, that's a lot of crap. Plenty of those guys out there too, right? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Takes a lot of work.
I want to tap into something because I feel like it will resonate really well with the audience. I think we all can relate to what you share about this promise that if we do go to school and live the 40-40-40, right? That no one tells you that's really what's happening, this dream. You just go to school and it's all going to work out. You had said even before that came to life, you had this entrepreneurial itch as a child. So tell me, what was that like?
So I had a passion for computers. Let's see, grade 5. So what is that, like 10, 11, something like that? Yeah. Right?
10, 11, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So when I was in grade 5, they rolled in this computer into our school. Like back then, a long time ago, before we carried phones in our pockets, right? The school had one computer on an AV cart. This is in Canada. So that's where I grew up. And as soon as I laid eyes on this beige box, I'm like, I need to know all I can about that thing. And my whole life revolved around computers and technology. And I wanted to be an entrepreneur, to learn all I can about applying this strange new box that no one had ever seen before. And, so everything centered around that. So I started learning all I could about computers. Back then, there was no YouTube, there was no internet, there was nothing like that. I had to learn it all on my own. And I had it in my head that I'm going to build a software company. I'm going to do technology, and that's what I'm going to do. And even I think I started my first little company when I was maybe 12 or 13, Triple Arrow Softworks. My first game was Pirates Cove. I remember that. I wrote the game, a storyboarded the whole thing. Nobody taught me. I just went ahead and did it. I don't know any better, and I coded the whole thing, right?
Oh my gosh.
As best as I could as a kid that had no training whatsoever, So it was a very different time, but I had it ever since then. I wanted to do my own thing. When I did my MBA, I remember sitting there telling people I want to do this whole computer thing, and being a technical entrepreneur of some sort, or run my own software company. I remember that. So, it's like, this is something it's been there the entire time. And if someone is out there and they're listening to this and they want to be an entrepreneur, you get one shot at this, guys. I'm not going to talk about, and I'm turning this into a religious thing. We don't know what comes after we get put into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But if this is it, do you really want to be doing what you're doing right now? Like, honestly, do you really see that in your heart? Or do you really want to do something that's actually worth doing?
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to, and I decided I cannot go do the corporate thing anymore. I just can't, and I won't do it. And I quit doing it. I quit doing it.
So what I'm picturing this, like, young Agostino, right? You have this dream, this thing that not only is a dream, you put forth into reality, right? Through this game. But then there's this time where dare I say, I blame a lot of things on society. It's such an easy scapegoat, but dare I say it's society, parents, right? The structured system kind of pulls you out of this thing that you were passionate about, B, successful in. But then still, even then, I think what I want to have listeners hear is, like, even then, it's so easy for us to push that aside, push our passions aside for these perceived dreams or perceived what we're supposed to do. Then this young Agostino goes to college, follows the rules that if I go to school, all will be okay. When was the tipping point for you? Well, you had kind of said you'd gone through some jobs, but what, beyond the actual experience, like, what emotionally and in your heartstrings really did you feel where you were like, F this, I gotta get out and do my thing. I gotta get back to that young Agostino.
So one of the biggest things that really happened. So first, to acknowledge something, you're absolutely right. All right, this whole 40-hour work week, they're working 8 hours a day, resting 8 hours a day, and 8 hours to the family, is all invented by Henry Ford. I think most people don't know that. You have to really dismantle that whole thing. It was all created for an industrial age that has long since passed, but yet we still follow that same thing, and that same plan has been rolled out around the world. It really is a structure that's been created, and now everybody follows, and now everything else, as far as everything from vacation time to how payroll is handled, is all centered around an age that is really past, at least for America anyway. The industrial age is still rising in other parts of the world, but here it's an antiquated way to live. It's not necessary anymore, right? So you really have to dismantle those sorts of things, this sort of thinking, okay? But really what came to be was when I was working at this one company. I had good technical knowledge. I worked for a lot of shitty companies. There we go. See, I'm already dropping it.
It's all right.
I worked for a lot of them, right? And then I had a shot to go work for a real good company. And I did. I rocked that place. They were about to go public. With the current technology they had in place, they just couldn't do it. I basically restructured the whole technology team, rebuilt all the software. They were able to go public and scale and grow like crazy. Until, there's always an until. Management decides they're going to make a change, and they riff me out the door. That's it. They hand me the GTFO box. You know what the GTFO box is, right?
I can read between those lines.
Yeah, that's right. GTFO, baby. If y'all don't know what that is, Google it. All right, you'll see what it is, right? Then you'll know the box. They get you the box. HR comes knocking on the door, and I'm like, it's like it's at that point. It's like, here I am. I gave up my all to this business, and I was there early, stayed late, built this great team, and then next thing you know, they got what they needed. They're gonna, out I go. I mean, listen, they paid me. I get it. Was I angry and pissed off? Of course, who wouldn't be? It's like I've been there for a while, and they even stole my stock. Isn't that nice too, right? I had stock options that they stole back from me. So I mean, there's people like that. There's companies like that, But it's like you realize that no matter what happens, you're all naked. Everyone's fragile. The whole thing is fragile. To think that job security is really a thing is ridiculous. Like, even some of these other companies I mentioned earlier on here, you never know. It could be a random Friday. You get the knock on the door. Sorry, we have to make cutbacks. You're out the door. That's it. Banks will want you to have a job, but if you're an entrepreneur, they treat you like garbage. It's the weirdest thing,
Mm-hmm.
If anything, if you're an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs out there are the hardest working people around, because they have, in order for them to actually eat, they better bust their ass on the next deal. They have to close. They have to.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're at a job, you don't have to do anything. You just show up and they'll pay you.
Yep.
So it's really wild to me. It's really strange. It really is. It really is strange to me. But it's just how it is, I suppose, right?
Yeah. So then you've gone through these ebbs and flows of like this pull that I truly see in you, which is this maybe what has created, dare I say, this kind of rougher exterior and this rougher vernacular, because I love what you represent today through Bulletproof Cash Flow, which is really serving people to live out their why, but through real estate. And so I want to dive into kind of a quick summary of where that started and originated, and then tell me a little bit more about what that looks like for people who are in your world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, when I was working at that company I just mentioned before, I built a friendship with the vice president of operations. And at the time, I was still a VP of technology before I went to the C-level, and he was a VP of operations before he went to the C-level. So we built a good friendship. And he says to me, which is hilarious, he goes, "You know what? You should buy some single family homes." And I'm like, okay, sounds like a plan. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Honestly, that was my decision structure. Like, it wasn't. People like to say, "Did you read Robert Kiyosaki?" Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is the book that most real estate guys will refer to when they got started down this journey. I can honestly say, no, I did not read the Little Purple Book. I did not do it until much later. Right. My decision process was, sounds like a good deal. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. That was it.
It's just like when you were a young kid with that computer. You didn't read books.
No,
you just went in and did it. You were like, I'm drawn to that thing. I'm going to figure this out. There's like a lot of, that's you. You're just diving in.
And part of it is that because I had to learn it, I think I was better off because of it. I'll tell you why. There's certain things that I learned back then, buying a single family home, that I still use today to do $130 million development. Same rules apply. I'm always looking for what's called urban infill. I'm looking for activity in the local market. As there transactions, money, people, jobs, those, of course, to anybody listening, if they do real estate, that makes sense, right? I didn't learn all that stuff. Like, I had to figure it out, right? But it made sense to me at the time. And I started just buying single family homes. And that's what I started doing. I started buying single family homes, renting them out. I followed my basic rules of not doing interest only loans. I didn't even know what that was when I started down this path, which is like I said, that was 15, 16 years ago, a long time ago. And I had to figure it out. If it didn't sound right to me, I didn't do it, and that's really what I started just doing the whole real estate thing. But when I got riffed just before the economy crashed in 2008, I stopped. I got scared, right? I paused everything. And I ended up just going on another journey of going to job to job to job. I didn't have a why, didn't have a focus. It was a complete disaster of a life. 10 years I spent just doing something, not living on purpose, which, by the way, is whenever you see someone that keeps making mistakes over and over and over again, they're not living on purpose. They're living by accident. meaning they're just doing what they're just taking the day on as it comes, and that's how they live. And it was a very miserable time. I did not have fun doing that. It was not good. But it wasn't until I had to get my life back on track and really focusing on the why and focusing on real estate. Because here's the thing, when I started getting my life back on track, I reflected back and I'm like, when all this stuff was happening in my life, my real estate portfolio was always making money. This little bunch of houses and duplexes, they're always producing cash. No matter what turmoil was going on, I was always making this money. It was always coming in. I'm just going to go do that instead. And that's what I did. I just decided to double down on real estate. And I quit
double down
corporate.
what was working.
Exactly. I quit corporate. 6-figure job, C-level for over 20 years. It was C class or C-level roles. Very hard to build a career like that. And I basically gave it the big middle finger and said, screw it. I'm never doing that again. And I bet on myself. And I burned the boats. And that's the biggest thing right there. I didn't take it as a side hustle. I didn't do any of that nonsense. I just burned the boats, and this is what I'm going to do. And for any entrepreneur out there, I'm sure they're probably nodding their heads like, if you're going to make it, if you know you have a backup plan, you're not going to do whatever it takes. When you know you don't have a backup, this is it. You will find a way to make something happen, right? And real estate is not easy, and it moves very, very slow. So you really, really, really have to execute quickly. That's what it really comes down to, right? So yeah, right now we don't do much. I don't do much in the way of single families anymore. We do have some that we bought, and we've now started selling off some of them. We primarily do B and C workforce type housing, the housing that many people use, like everyone from nurses, mechanics, your workforce, the people that go to work every day and support America. Those are the people that we provide housing for, right? Throughout the Cleveland area. We do development. We either do adaptive reuse or ground up, right? So John D. Rockefeller had an office building in downtown Cleveland, and we actually bought that building. We're converting that to multifamily. So we own that one. We have some other old office buildings we're converting to multifamily, and we do ground up as well. And we also do single tenant net lease. So think of like Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Walgreens, like companies that are established and produce revenue every single month, right? So we're able to deliver that revenue to our investors on a monthly basis for a nice, steady monthly return, right? So between these 3 different assets, we're able to provide our investors 3 different ways to earn money for themselves and for their families, right? With 3 different return profiles. So investors they invest in all 3 of these things. Some invest in just a net lease, some invest in 2 of them, or all 3, right? There's no limit, obviously. So yeah, it's a very different change, certainly, from doing tech. But the only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. That's the only thing I regret, not doing it sooner. I should have done it when I was a kid instead of dealing with all this corporate bullshit.
Yeah. The burn the boats, really, it's such a beautiful reminder. I have a very, very close friend that I hold dearly and I look up to greatly in the world of business and as just a human level. And her advice to me when I started Vim was to burn the boats. And I had no idea what that saying even was, right? I literally had to Google it. And I didn't listen for a couple years. I did the whole one toe in here and one toe in there, moonlit from the middle of the night till the wee hours of the morning, making it work. But it was when I burnt the boats that really things did, thrive. And so I think it's a great reminder, for myself, should I steal a moment of the show for me? And also just to hear you say it as well, right? It really validates that idea. So how do people?
But you know what, Steph? I'll tell you this, Steph. I'll tell you this. This is funny. I did a video, I don't know, 6-8 months ago about burning the boats. Like technically, the whole story about burning the boats is actually pretty bad, right? It's like it's like the background of the story is not a good story, but the messaging is valid. I mean, so if someone is interested in learning more about that, you should definitely look into the story. but it doesn't mean we're talking about go around killing people.
Right.
Referring to the story, but it's about making a full commitment to what needs to happen. And many entrepreneurs, that's exactly where they go south, right? They have a hard time scaling their business, and it's because they're doing 18 other things that don't support the one business actually making money. Yeah. It's crazy, but a lot of people do it. I used to do it too. It's like I was doing a bunch of stupid things, and instead of just focusing just on one, building the team around it, letting them handle it so I can do number 2, do the same thing, and then just do number 3 and do that same thing, right? You have to build systems and processes and people around those different businesses and make sure that's running properly before you set it aside and then go do something else. That's the biggest thing to learn about how to properly scale your business.
And this is a really scary world for people to jump into, right? Because there is a lot of risk and there's a lot of unknowns, and there's probably maybe not as much risk when we have somebody like yourself who's helping, guide and mitigate what you should and shouldn't do for that risk. But how do you help people recognize that working with you through Bulletproof Cash Flow would be beneficial? Like, what do they need to self-recognize to even recognize that you're a good fit for them? What are some of the key attributes for your ideal client?
Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on what they're looking to do, right? So we do coach, we do help people get into the real estate game. And like I said earlier, in the green room, we're cursing and swearing and cussing or whatever, and it's funny. But it's a very raw and real approach to doing this business. Most people are okay with it. Most of my community, they're super happy and pleased because I deliver a no bullshit response to things and I'm completely honest. Everything I do comes from a place of love. I'll give you an example. What we'll do is we will go through their social media, right? Their Facebook profile, and we tear their Facebook profile apart. All right. Your headshot is terrible. You need to redo it. And that's exactly how I say it. This back thing needs to be your cover photo. Your cover photo has to be replaced. Remove the picture of the beer bong, all this stuff, right? Not because I'm being a meanie. It's because I'm a critical guy. Okay. And if I'm going to choose how to do business with somebody, I would look for stuff like that. And there's other people out there just like me. If they're not as bad as I am, I'd be very surprised. But you cannot give anybody a reason to say no to you. Because in this business, whether you're doing small multifamily or big multifamily, those are two courses, the advantage and the accelerator. They're both, if you're going to work with somebody, they're going to do the same sort of thing. And the students and the mentees that we have are tremendous people that wanted to see a change happen in their life. They're not arrogant. They don't think they have all the answers. That's a big part of it, and I'm not saying I have all the answers either. I can't show you how to be a billionaire because I'm not there yet. But if you want to be a millionaire, I can certainly show you how to do that because I've already done that, right? And that's really what it comes down to, is leveraging the experience, actual experience, not from a secondhand guy that might have done it. I've actually done it. And we show people how to get into the game, and I think at this point where we are right now, especially not only in the economic cycle, but also where our currency is going. I don't know how much you know about the currency, Stephanie, but our currency is, it's on a downward trend in terms of the overall value of the dollar. Real estate is the only thing that rises in value faster than the value of the dollar. Well, the dollar is never going to rise in value again. Honestly, it can't. It's not possible, right? So you have to be in real estate. It's almost, you need to be in real estate. You have to be able to put this paper dollars. These are dollars that people out there right now are killing themselves for. That is literally printed off of a printing press. They print it off a printing press, and then they hand it to you after you've busted your ass for the last 40 hours. Does that sound weird? Does that sound weird to you? I mean, why would you do that? I mean, if you are going to do that, then great. Take those pieces of paper and put it to a hard asset that's real. That's why it's called real estate. And you get to enjoy all the tax advantages. And the people end up living there, end up paying you those little pieces of paper. You just send some to the bank, keep the rest for yourself. It's a remarkable way to build wealth for yourself, wealth for your family. That piece of real estate, Rockefeller's been there for over 130 years. It's not going anywhere tomorrow, right? I mean, I know it's going to be there for 100 more. That building will outlive me. I'm sorry to say, but it will, right? So it makes sense to do that. That's why I tell people to get into real estate. And it's not because I'm trying to sell a course. I don't care if you buy the course or not, honestly. It doesn't matter. Like in our mastermind, you have the online component. We spend 50 weeks going through our mastermind. You could do it or not do it. It doesn't matter, but you need to get into real estate. You have to. It's a must. Yeah, you have to do it. You have to.
So tell me who this is for, right? You mentioned you're in Cleveland, like you're working probably primarily in that Cleveland and surrounding area, but who is Bulletproof Cashflow for the course, right? Who that's listening should jump on the site, and what should we have them do? Is there a free consult they can have with you? Do we just dive right into the course? What's a good way to get started with Bulletproof Cashflow?
No, that's a good question. So I would recommend going to YouTube first. Go to YouTube. We have, I don't know, 700 videos on the channel. Plus, I have no idea. We put out content all the time, right? I've interviewed well over 400 people, and all the folks that I interview are badasses. All of them, every single one. We don't just let anybody come on the show. Other guys do. We don't. Right? You have to have a proven track record to come on our show. And check that out first. If you like what you hear and you like what you see, then I would recommend going to either multifamilyaccelerator.com if you're looking to do big deals, raising capital, syndication, raising money from friends and family to go do your first multifamily or whatever, or even to get coached on bigger multifamily deals. Or if you want to do smaller multifamily, or fourplexes, triplexes, things like that, we have themultifamilyadvantage.com. That's another program, right? So if you want to just get started with a multifamily game, that's another way to do it. And there's a video there that tells you a little bit about how it works, what it does. You set a time with one of our guys, and if everything goes well, I jump on, we talk a little bit, because I still personally interview every single person that comes into our community. Right? This is my family. And if I feel that they're not qualified, they're not allowed in.
Yeah.
So I vet it out because I don't want any negative Nancys. I want people that are really hungry and want to make a difference in their life and the life of others. Because at the end of the day, aside from having the online course and aside from having a 50-week mastermind for 1, sometimes 2 hours we stay on, talking about deals, how to analyze a deal, putting deals together, what to look for, what not to look for. We also have an online community, and you're able to communicate with your brothers and sisters in the community, and you're there to support each other and help each other work through deals. So it's a whole scenario like that, as opposed to just downloading a course or watching a video online. You'll never get to where you want to go watching a YouTube video or going to buy a book off of Amazon. It'll never work. Why? Our brains find a way of tricking us into thinking that we're progressing and down our goals because you just bought a book from Amazon. That doesn't do anything. It's not true. Mm-hmm. It takes action to get to where you want to go. And that's what we help people fulfill that need.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing I loved from the get-go of meeting you was the terminology of bulletproof and some of the things that I know bleed into your brand, which is this no bullshit. Like, you got to be able to take it. You got to take the heat. And I think a lot of people who get into this need that, right? So I think I applaud you for doing that, because a lot of people get nervous about that real and raw, because it can be seen as a turnoff. But what that really is a traction method or a detraction method, and it's very intentional. And so I just want to applaud that, because it's good, and clearly it's working for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, if real estate were easy, everybody be doing it. And a lot of people get flushed out. This is a tough business. It's not easy. The gurus will tell you it's easy. The gurus will tell you buy a duplex tomorrow and you're going to be living in Miami with a Ferrari in 6 months. That's what they're going to say. Mm-hmm. Not true. It's totally not true. Now, can you get a deal in less than 90 days? Absolutely, you can. We have students who have already done it. They've actually done it, so it's been done, right? So that you can do. Is he going to be a millionaire tomorrow? No, he won't be. Will he get there? I think he will. One of my students, he'll get there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the folks they're young people. They're young people. We have one student that's 17.
Ooh.
We have one that I think we go from 17 to 30 in the 30s. And we have a whole wide range of people, very diverse people that really want to see that change in their life. And that's what makes me so happy. I really, really get excited when they get their first deal and that look on their face, like, oh my God, I actually did it. Like, it's amazing. It's so cool. It's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love what you're doing. It sounds like there's a couple different places people can find you. I know I have Bulletproof Cash Flow. I've said it several times, but you also mentioned a few different links. Can they get to all those other resources from Bulletproof Cash Flow, or what's the best place to start?
Yeah, bulletproofcashflow.com is another place. Just go to bulletproofcashflow.com. You'll go to everywhere from there. Check out like I said, the YouTube channel has a lot of great material. Check it out. If you're already in the real estate game, you want to learn how to talk to brokers, guidetobrokers.com. Go there, download a free ebook, check it out. It's totally free. You want to raise money, guidetocapital.com. Go ahead, download that. I mean, I have all kinds of stuff on there. So you should go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will make sure that the show notes have that kind of anchor link so that we can start diving into your world. I absolutely have enjoyed getting to know you. I'm glad like I said at the beginning, Agostino has already given me some really cool, like raw, real, like, girl, you need to do that. You need to do this. And then I hear them, I receive them, and I believe them. So I can tell that you do a really great job of nurturing your people and giving them what they need, which is just some truths here and there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it so much. And until next time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Passion on Purpose podcast. I truly hope you got a lot of value out of this episode. So if you did, please rate, review, and share. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, whether a leader or an expert, please go to getvim.com/podcast and you will find our application page, or reach out to me directly and I can give you more information.